I'm Dana Goldstein. I'm a contributing writer to The Nation and the Daily Beast and a Puffin Fellow at the Nation Institute.
I'm Amanda Marcotte. I'm the executive editor of Pandagon, and I write for RH Reality Check and Slate's Double X.
And we are here today to continue a debate that we started last week at thenation.com about Anthony Weiner, his scandal, what his fate should be, and sort of, what's too much probing when it comes to a politician's sex life, and where those private public boundaries should be. So to start out, maybe Amanda, who's been writing prolifically on all this, can update us on exactly what the latest is.
I'm assuming that most of the viewers are familiar with the kind of details of what happened. The latest news is that the Democratic caucus in the House is pressuring Weiner to resign. He is still not resigning. He instead checked himself into rehab or to get counseling or whatever, which I think is sort of the 21st century version of getting baptized to wash all the sins away. I would love to be in rehab for sex addiction. I imagine it's a lot of playing video games and whiling away time until the sex scandal goes away and then returning to whatever you were doing, because I really don't think there is such a thing as sex addiction. But anyway, that's another story.
Well, in this case, he wasn't really actually having sex, so if he does have a problem, it doesn't sound like sex addiction would even be an accurate description of the problem.
Yeah, a compulsion to send women penis pictures. Perhaps that will be a new diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think yesterday, TMZ.com published a new cache of photos, and in these pictures, he's in the house gym, and in one of them, he's pretty much totally naked, except he has a towel over his crotch, and a few more are a little bit tamer.
So there's
and
more using that as an I'm sorry?
Just there's more embarrassing pictures, I guess, is the latest.
Yeah, and the fact that it was a congressional gym is being used as more reason to pressure him, which is kind of grasping. I think it's grasping.
So where are you now when you're thinking about it? I mean, what do you think his next step should be, and how do you feel about Pelosi and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Steny Hoyer really coming down strong on him to resign at this moment?
I know why they're doing it, because it's just hurting them so badly in the press. They would rather be talking about Medicare. They would rather be talking about the Republicans' plan to just austerity measures, all that sort of thing, because they do really well with the public with that. Instead, they're in a position where most mentions of Democrats in the news lately involve one Democrat and his penis. I think they think that if he resigns, this will all go away. I personally think that is short-sighted. The reason that it's short-sighted is because I just am very adamantly against rewarding bad behavior. And what the people whose behavior is particularly despicable in this is, while Weiner is a sad man, the problem is that the media, and particularly the right-wing noise machine, should not be rewarded with a scalp. If you give them a scalp, that just says to them, oh boy, here's a way to start running Democrats out of office. And they're going to take that opportunity. They will take whatever they can. And particularly since everybody has sex and nobody looks dignified doing it, we're in a, where does this end is my concern, really. I feel like once sex becomes a weapon against Democrats, no man or woman is safe. I don't care what the latest women don't get into sex scandals article says. I really don't think that anybody is safe at this point, because really, while he was wrong to do this, I think it's kind of between him and his wife, not the rest of the country. So that's my position on it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I read today at the Smoking Gun website is that potentially a member of Darrell Issa's staff was involved, kind of tweeting and emailing back and forth with some of the conservative sort of Twitter provocateurs who were communicating with the women, getting their hands on these photos, attempting to out him. So that is certainly disturbing, and I agree with you that there's a really disturbing trend from the Breitbarts of the world to this sort of gotcha journalism that veers into people's private lives. And I agree, it's disturbing. I mean, I think given that we've known for years that this is the direction that our media climate is headed in, to me it makes his behavior, Weiner's behavior, even more indefensible and less explicable. I mean, the fact that he was knowingly over and over again pursuing women, using Facebook, using Twitter, and then, after the initial contact was made, he was almost immediately moving to the level of sending them these really provocative, almost pornographic photographs, in some cases explicitly pornographic photographs. It's not really clear if all the women who received these photos wanted to be seeing these things. I mean, some of them were avidly participating with him in this kind of sexual banter, and some of them, the Seattle college student, it seems, were quite surprised to get this sort of picture from a congressman. Given that he was, doing all this during work hours, sometimes from his office in Congress, right before going down to the floor and making a vote, it just seems like such a pattern of unprofessional behavior. It raises questions for me about, what his work environment was like. He was just shutting the door and doing all this in his office with his staff members right outside the door. And that was one of the things that I'd written and when we had debated this on The Nation. And, it continues to disturb me when I think about all the women working for him and everyone working for him. It raises questions about what kind of workplace it was to me. And I don't know, I wouldn't go so far as to call for him to resign. I think especially because it's likely that his district is going to be lost in the New York State redistricting process. It seems that what New York Democrats are hoping is that he sort of just fulfills the rest of his term, then they redistrict him out, and then his political career is over. So I guess my tendency would be to let that process play out rather than to have him resign now and have some sort of placeholder in the seat when I don't think the seat itself is likely to exist a year from now.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly... I agree with that. I mean, particularly the seat wrangling, I mean, that is what it is. My bigger concern right now is how much are we willing to give the scalp hunters? Like, I'm just very much of the feeling that you just don't give up. You don't give anything. You just stand firm. You just don't reward the bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And, I am already feeling a slippery slope, creating, it's certainly if he sent pictures to women who were not consenting, then that's a completely different story. Like you said, it's not clear. And certainly if anybody says that they were harassed, then he should go. I feel, that's the line in the sand. You shouldn't sexually harass women. You shouldn't sexually harass anybody. That said, I haven't heard anybody complain about it. Maybe I'm wrong. So I feel like until we hit that point, there's just no call for this scandal, no call for this nonsense. And I'm already seeing the slippery slope form with things like what you said about the door being shut and he's on one side of it and other people are on the other, and he's doing things that if he had the door open would have been completely wrong. But that's what doors are for, Yeah,
I see that argument. I mean, let's play this out to the next level. So let's presume, I think, that he's going to lose the seat. I think that's the most likely outcome. Or, even if he were to somehow find himself able to hang on or continue in politics, what role could he play in public life, given now that everyone in America has seen these photographs, knows these details about his sex life? For me, feeling passionately about universal health care and, being grateful to him for the role he played in that debate, I was angry that he would risk that bullhorn to be such a great advocate for single payer with a scandal like this, because it seems like it would be hard to take him seriously after this. But then on the other hand, you think to someone like Spitzer, who's been able to revitalize himself. And even thinking back to the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I was, I think, a freshman in high school when all that happened. And over the past couple of weeks with this Weiner thing, I've sort of looked looked back on it to kind of question my own assumptions with my adult brain now that I'm able to sort of more fully comprehend what it was like. And, what I just said about closed doors, I mean, you could have said the same thing about Bill Clinton. Of course, he was in the Oval Office, getting a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky. And a lot of progressives felt that was totally inappropriate. A lot of people in America felt that it disrespected the office. And, people who voted for him, people who agree with his policy positions wanted him to step down after that. And I think looking back on history, it's not so easy to say that that would have been the right thing to do. I mean, maybe then Gore would have been president and he would have been easily elected and we would never have had the 2000 debacle and the Iraq War. I mean, it's a crazy alternative history to think about what if Clinton had resigned. But I don't think that I've ever thought that he should have. So that made me question some of my assumptions around the Weiner thing. I guess I could see Weiner going on and having a media career a la Spitzer, but it seems like right now he needs to take a break from public life. It seems to me almost incomprehensible that he could just continue his role in the political debate right now.
Well, I was an adult when the Clinton thing went down. Not an old adult. I was, I think, 21 when that happened. It must have been. I recall feeling roughly the same. I haven't changed one bit on that, I suppose. Maybe the Clinton thing made me just hard about this, but I was, at the time that happened, I was so angry and so scandalized that the Star report, which I read, and I was just so angry at Ken Starr for putting all these irrelevant details. Like, I recall at the time that the whole justification for this was that he had lied under oath, that it was perjury, and so, they had to put this report out about exactly what he lied about to show that he lied. Okay, that's fine. Do we need to know that he put a cigar in her vagina to know that he had sex with her?
Right.
Do we need to know the silly little games? Like, do we need to know the details? No, absolutely not. So the fact that they were in there made it crystal freaking clear to me that the reason that this was going on, despite all the denials, was to sexually humiliate the president.
You know what's occurring to me as you say all this, Amanda? I wonder if this 7-year age difference between us is part of what's to explain for our different reactions to this. Because, having been 13, 14 years old when all that happened, I think it's sort of my de facto understanding of how politics works, that those sorts of tawdry details can always get out there. And I think that because that was such a formative political experience for me when I was just first becoming truly cognizant of national politics, I wonder if that makes me think, Weiner was even more stupid and even more naive, given that has been the climate now for some time to have done what he did.
Yeah, I mean, he was clearly stupid. I don't think anybody would deny that. I mean, at the time that it happened to Bill Clinton, I was really, really worried that this was the direction we were heading, because and it took a long time really to have a sex scandal where the only justification for it was there was no justification. I've yet to hear anybody make a real thorough argument for why this should be a media scandal. Like, it just continues to circle around to he should have known that this was going to happen, therefore it's a story that this happened. It becomes this sort of weird logical, drain, I guess. Whereas I understand that that's true, and it's true that he was stupid. My concern, and I think that this is a golden opportunity for this media situation, this country, especially the media, to say, what's off limits, what's a scandal, what's actually a problem. There was a great article in Salon today comparing Charlie Rangel to Anthony Weiner and how all the Democrats lined up behind Rangel and they're denouncing Weiner, and Rangel actually did something wrong.
Yeah.
He did he broke their ethics violations, all their rules. And Weiner so far took some naughty pictures in his office. I was surprised generally to hear that sex at the office is now considered just horribly wrong. I've never done that, but I don't think it would bother me if I found out that somebody else did. Especially, as long as the door was closed and they didn't bother anybody else.
I think that's a hard one. I mean, I think that, I don't know. It brings to mind all these thoughts of like Helen Gurley Brown and this idea that it's fun to be sexy at work and all that. I mean, I think Weiner has had problems with staffing his staff for a long time. I mean, he's known in New York political circles as being a really tough asshole boss, and also, frankly, a womanizer, and it has bled into his professional reputation. I mean, I've spoken to people active in New York politics who were totally not surprised by this, and don't have a high opinion of him. So I think it's tough to say, like, oh, it's okay if the door's shut, if, naughty sexual stuff is happening at work, because to me it's like, well, what part of his brain at 3 o'clock on a Thursday was in that place? Because where you really should be at 3 o'clock on a Thursday, if you're a member of Congress sitting in your office in the Capitol building, is probably a little bit more focused on,
Yeah, but would you hold somebody playing Angry Birds in their office at 3 p.m. to the same standard? I mean,
no.
I'm guaranteeing at 3 p.m. 3
different.
p.m. on a Friday, nobody is working, except maybe me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very sympathetic to your argument, because I do think it is terrible that you have these conservative media provocateurs going out and looking for this stuff. But they've been doing that for a long time. It's nothing new. So that's where my anger at Weiner comes from. If digital
I share your anger. Yeah, I am angry at him.
And if digital sexual exhibitionism is your thing, maybe politics is not the right profession for you. If you really want
that's where
this
I get
stuff,
worried.
But if you really want to be sending naked pictures of yourself to strangers on the internet, you have to question whether being in a public role that requires people to have, this sense of respect for you. A lot of people are just going to lose respect for someone once they engage in this stuff and it comes out. And I think that he must have known that. I think a part of himself must have known that. And maybe that was part of the attraction to doing this. It was the risk, or he felt invincible, or whatever it was. Who knows? I doubt he even knows. But I think it's just exceptionally wrong-headed for any political figure to think that they could get away with it.
But let's play that argument out to the next conclusion. I mean, a lot of people are made uncomfortable by homosexuality.
Yeah.
They have no respect for somebody they know has sex with somebody of a member of the same sex. It grosses them out. They can't think about anything else. Would you say that gay people should avoid politics? Because a lot of people are going to just, every time, Barney Frank has dealt with this for roughly his entire political career. Mm-hmm. Every time a lot of people look at him, all they can see is gay, gay, gay. And, he doesn't care, and I'm glad that he doesn't care, because it's important that we grow up as a society and accept that sex for whatever reason has this pull on people, and they're going to do, and nobody is dignified about sex. I resist the notion that, I heard a lot of people when I would challenge them, I'd say, don't you think that this could happen to anybody on some level, that if any detail about your sexual preferences gets out, like, nobody looks good. Mm-hmm. And all people are like, my sex life could totally withstand this kind of scrutiny. I'm like, nobody looks good naked. I'm sorry. Like, nobody looks dignified naked anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, dude.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I think there's a difference between being gay, which is, a core fact of your identity, and what Anthony Weiner did, which is create a photographic trail and a text message and Facebook message trail of his sexual exploits, which is something that could be publicly shared, forwarded beyond his control and all that. I mean, I just think it's not a fine line at all. It's a big distinction. And I think that I do wish in many ways that we were a less puritanistic culture about sex, but I'm not sure if this particular scandal really gets my ire up. I don't think it does really. I feel angrier at him for putting everything he's worked so hard for since his early 20s at risk, his position in the debate, his political future. I'm more angry at him for doing that than I am at the people who think this is gross or think it's weird. I mean, I don't think it's particularly gross or weird to send pictures of yourself to someone. I think if you're a politician and you're doing it and you're sending it to strangers, that I do think is weird.
Well, exhibitionism is a really common kink. I don't think it's particularly weird. It seems very much in line with his personality, honestly.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, the photographic evidence is particularly crazy. But as the Clinton situation demonstrated, you can embarrass somebody without photographs. Mm-hmm. All you need to do is find somebody they've had sex with who needs the money.
Yeah.
And tell them, give me all the details, and then publish it, and voila!
Yeah. Sexual
humiliation, sex scandal. Now that my concern isn't this particular scandal or even necessarily Weiner, whose stupidity is obvious. And you're right, pictures are particularly bad because the media loves them because they need pictures and you just provided them for their stories, for their TV. My concern now is that I've never seen a sex scandal in my adult life whose entire purpose for existence was that it was a sex scandal. Like, at all points in time, there was some slim justification for why this is a scandal, because it's about lying or under oath. It's about hypocrisy. I can't even, in Elliot Spitzer's case, he broke the law. So far, none of these things have been have been wielded. And any attempts to do it really are weak. Mm-hmm. I'm very concerned that if this becomes the new normal, then it's just over, because there's not a one of us that probably can't be hit by this. Not a one of us who doesn't have an ex that could be paid off. It doesn't need to have pictures to be a scandal now. I really think that that's just sort of that's attracting a lot of attention that is maybe not due.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. I mean, when you think about someone like Ted Kennedy, who was able to survive, I think, a much more damning scandal, Chappaquiddick, where actually a young woman died, and go on and really to be seen as a liberal lion in the Senate, someone who was just mourned so deeply when he passed away. What do you see ideally as Anthony Weiner's future?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably what I hope for. I mean, what Kennedy had was the backing of powerful people, and Weiner doesn't have that. He does. I think his biggest problem, like his at the end of the day, the stupidest thing that I think he's ever done is he didn't make a lot of friends on the Hill.
Yeah.
And that's probably what's going to kill him. And in a weird way, I haven't decided what I think about that. Like, on one hand, I think that's stupid. On the other hand, I really, really, really don't like the DC culture where everything's about glad handing and who's friends with who and who goes to what cocktail parties and things like that. And ally making. I wish it was just a little bit more professional than that, and it's not. And I feel if he survives it, it's better for the Republic, as it were. It is a strike against both that DC culture of back scratching, and it's a strike against this media environment where sexual humiliations are considered a bigger story than real ethics violations or, actual policy choices that are damaging to the country. Mm-hmm. So what do you see as Weiner's future? What would you hope would happen?
I mean, I think just realistically, I think he's done in the House for now. I mean, just because of the redistricting threat that's hanging over his head, it seems sort of irrelevant whether he makes it through the next week, given that I think he's likely to lose the district. I think I would hope, ideally, maybe that he would step back for 6 months or a year and then try to get involved in media work again. I mean, I think that he is a really powerful advocate for certain progressive ideas, notably on healthcare, and I would hope that he would continue that role and maybe even organize an organization that can push, for more progressive healthcare laws and better implementation of the bill that passed, the universal healthcare bill. So I'd like to see him active on those issues. I certainly hope that he has, a meaningful, politically engaged career ahead of him that will bring him satisfaction and that will be helpful in the debate.
Excellent. Well, I think we can wrap it up there then.
Okay, great. This was fun. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah. Thank you. I had a good time debating you about this.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.